Hi, I'm Benji Hardy with the Arkansas Times. Max is still snowed in at his house today, so I've got your news roundup for Tuesday. The ice continues to slow things down at the Capitol, but the legislature is back today with action on a few bills. The most significant of those is probably Representative Greg Leding's HB 1197, which would eliminate life without parole as a sentencing option for minors accused of serious crimes. The bill was tabled today during a House committee after about 2 hours of discussion. That bill would allow for the possibility of parole for juveniles after serving 28 years in prison or 20 years if the defendant didn't cause the death itself. If the bill were to pass, it could potentially affect 113 offenders in the Arkansas prison system who were convicted as juveniles in the past. And it's important to note that this bill doesn't guarantee parole, it just makes offenders eligible for it. And there's obviously a very emotional issue. The argument for eliminating life without parole for juvenile offenders is that kids who committed terrible crimes are still kids. Their brains aren't fully developed, and perhaps they shouldn't be judged with the same stick that we use to measure adults who've committed murder. But prosecutors testified against the bill, including Pulaski County's prosecutor Larry Jegley. He said it was unfair to victims and their families, and it's not right to relitigate these cases that have already been sentenced. So it looks like the bill isn't going anywhere for now, but it might be amended and make a reappearance at a later date. While we're on the topic of criminal justice, I'd like to encourage you to check out a letter we've linked to on the blog by Judge Wendell Griffin calling for clemency for nonviolent offenders serving time on drug-related charges. The significance there is that this week we're expecting an announcement from Governor Asa Hutchinson about a plan for prisons and parole and the correction system writ large. He's been working on something for a while. And he suggested in the past that he's open to some reforms on criminal justice. So here's hoping that the governor reads Judge Griffin's letter closely. Fallout continues from the passage of SB 202, which is the anti-discrimination bill that passed the legislature last week. That's the bill that would prevent cities from enacting non-discrimination ordinances to protect LGBT people. Last night, a letter from a man named Donald Collins began making the rounds of the internet. Collins is gay and married, and he also happens to be the brother of Fayetteville Representative Charlie Collins, who is a Republican who voted for SB 202 and supported also the repeal of Fayetteville's civil rights ordinance last fall, which sort of started the whole push to remove local control over anti-discrimination measures. So Donald Collins has some pretty harsh words for his brother, which he frames in his letter as an apology to the LGBT community in Arkansas. Here's a brief passage. I write to you this Valentine's Day letter on the 1-year wedding anniversary to my brother, to my husband, to apologize for not being able to do more to help my brother understand the devastating impact discriminatory bills like the one he supported Friday have on not just the LGBT community, but on their friends, family, as well as the entire population of Arkansas. So check that letter out. On a far goofier note, a legislative committee gave the green light to a bill by Representative Jack Ladyman to give water companies local control of addition to fluoride to water. It's something that health officials generally oppose, saying that if you start having local variants from standards, it would imperil the preventative value of fluoridation programs in general. And as Max has been pointing out on the blog lately, there's a great deal of hypocrisy in conservative legislators who fight for local control on something like adding fluoride to water, but then want to impose a top-down statewide mandate when it comes to protecting LGBT rights. Finally, some national news that has significance for immigrants in Arkansas. In Brownsville, Texas today, a federal district judge issued a ruling that affects immigrants all across the country. It stops the Obama administration's executive action announced last November, which would remove the threat of deportation for several million undocumented immigrants in the U.S., including as many as 60,000 people who are residents of Arkansas. The Attorney General of Arkansas, Leslie Rutledge, along with those of 25 other states, has been suing the federal authorities over that executive action. They say that the White House oversteps its constitutional bounds in limiting those deportations. And it looks like the federal judge is agreeing with them. The Department of Homeland Security Secretary Jay Johnson says that they'll appeal the decision, so that fight is not over by any means. That's it for Tuesday. Max will be back here tomorrow, assuming that he's able to get out of the house.